let us all do we can to build a better future. On this show, we have talked a lot about our progressive leaders, current events that are happening in corporate media, and one great treasure trove of resource has been one individual that had the courage and the mental stamina to somehow sit through corporate media. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what kind of powers he used, but we have used CaseStudyQB's videos that he has posted on his Twitter page, and numerous other channels have used his videos as well, from Mikasu Kasa, Jimmy Dore, Katie Halper. This has been a big deal for a lot of us in the independent media networks because, let's face it, sometimes corporate media might think that they're slick and get away with it, but CaseStudyQB is on point and captures them when they think they can get away with it, because they're not slick. So joining us now for a big face reveal, live on air on Hard Lens Media, I guess our unofficial slash official slash unofficial slash official producer, joining us live on air, CaseStudyQB. Let's bring him in.
Hey.
How are you, Case?
No, man. I'm part of the family. You can't do nothing about it now.
Well, we're really glad to have you on our show. And I think, you know, a lot of people are probably wondering, like, well, who is CaseStudyQB? What made you get this get started with this Twitter account? That, mind you, I do want to ask you about the censorship. But first, let's talk about what got you started with clippings.
What got you going? You know, it's like the thing that I need to do is get the good parts of mainstream media and make that publicly available. That's not something I would have ever thought of. Like, what got you to that?
Yeah, I'm going to go into that, but first I want to give a shout out to my man Kit, of course, great guy, Daniel, FaZe, Kara, and Lonnie, my family at Hard Lens Media. You know, I love the fact that you guys use my clip. You know, every time you guys do it, it gives me energy. And every time I see other people use the clips, it makes me feel like I'm not doing it in vain or for no reason, that is being used, right? So I definitely wanted to provide a service to the progressive atmosphere or the ecosystem. And, you know, I have my own show, but I can never do what you guys do, which is like straight news or what other progressive organizations or what I would like to call our leaders, progressive leaders, what they do. Everyone has their own style. So I wanted to contribute in my own little way. And how I got into it, I first started a YouTube channel, actually, and at the height of the primaries, and I used to clip a whole bunch of progressive interviews. So like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and then at that time, it would be very rare. So that's where I felt that I would be valuable because, you know, a lot of mainstream media is a lot of fluff and a lot of stuff that you have to like just you tune out. So I was thinking, what would I like to see if, as a progressive and someone that wouldn't have a lot of time, what would be a channel that I like to go to see for the day all the progressive clips, or for the week, you know, all the progressive clips, and I could get caught up. And that was the reasoning behind it. So I was doing it on YouTube at first, and I was curating a whole bunch of clips, but then I started getting a whole bunch of copyright strikes. So I was like, that kind of got me disheartened. But somebody in the comments said, hey, can you put this on Twitter? And I was like, I'm already focused on YouTube, and to do another social media, it might be a whole too much time or add more to my workflow. I said, you know what, let me try it out. So I started working on it and started doing it, and I found that it started gaining traction, and I found that people really appreciated and had value for it, and they started retweeting it with their own comments on that particular clip. So I found that with the success, I started focusing more on Twitter, and then eventually I deleted all of the CaseStudyQB clips, and there were a lot of clips, and some certain clips were getting like 70,000, 100,000 views. Oh, but it was just, you know, those mainstream media clips that would just blow up. They would go on Reddit, they would go in different areas, and they would just blow up, even on right wing sometimes, and it would just blow up. And I deleted all those clips because I didn't want YouTube to close down the channel. And when I closed it down, I was like, what can I do my own original content? And that's where I have a political chat on WhatsApp with a whole bunch of my guys. And it's like, you know, 20 people on there. And I said, hey, I want to start a new At the time I didn't know how many times we wanted to do it. I think at first I wanted to do it once a month, but we end up doing it once a week, every Monday at 8 p.m. on Case Study QB YouTube channel. We do Political Junkies, and we had 7 guys that said they will do it, and then 5 people actually showed up, and those have been my core guys that we've been having a lot of fun just discussing politics in our little world, and slowly building a following. And I definitely want to give a shout out to the people who I see in this chat. E. Heller. I want to give a shout out to Gamer for Life, Holly Horn. Those are people that I know. Gamer for Life. Whenever I'm chatting with in the chat room, I'm always giving you guys some love. So, and to all the other people that I can't really remember right now, but those are the main people that I always see often.
Well, see that, and again, that shows real power in many ways, because here you are actually capturing these clips that sometimes sneak under a lot of our collective radars.
Our schedules are already so busy, and I don't just mean for Heartlands. I know for a lot of other channels and
for a lot of
I don't
people.
have the time to go through and watch everything that MSN posts, and we already know that they don't post the stuff that really we want to air anyway. And go through and figure that out, and maybe one day, every day. Because I remember before we started using your clips, it was like, okay, let's see if something happened, and they spend an hour and you'll get nothing. And it's like they don't even post the stuff that they get wrong. We have to catch that ourselves. And I think we could segue right into what's happened with your Twitter account, which I think is in its own way. I'm not sure if you heard me talk about it. It's sort of funny to me, because I feel sort of if you go with the regulations, let's call them, that are put out by social media, I think there's no question that mainstream media outlets put on questionable, suggestive, offensive, untrue content all the time. But of course, the mainstream outlets, so no one's going to do anything about it. So now that your channel is on Twitter, you have to go through that whole, hey, this is sensitive stuff, you got to click through this. I always thought it was funny, because it's like when their content is actually going up and there's no behind-the-scenes deal going on, Twitter knows that it's not good content. Twitter knows that they're spreading lies. And the fact that they're hitting your channel just says to me how much of a behind-the-scenes deal is going on.
And I remember when I brought this to your attention first, because I know we want to hear what's going on with your Twitter account, because it's not right in my opinion, and because I remember when I was going to your Twitter page, not logged in, I just typed in your account, and all of a sudden I got the warning. This account has controversial, sensitive material. And I'm like, well, wait, does CaseStudyQB, is he uploading questionable material, X-rated stuff? Is he posting?
It is. That's what I'm saying.
But it is corporate media, because let's face it, corporate media, they're nothing but corporate whores. I know. Controversial statement to say it about corporate media, but they are. But it was madness, and I even direct messaged you. Like, I asked, did you change like your security account or anything else like that? And your words were like, no, this is news to me. I haven't heard about this. But then other people were saying the same thing too. So for our viewers, what the hell happened with Twitter, and why are they deeming your channel on Twitter, your Twitter account, such a threat or something that's controversial?
Yeah, so apparently it probably happened around January earlier this year that I know one thing that happened, and I like to promote and be of service as much as I can. So a lot of times you'll see me change my name, my tag. It'll go from CaseStudyQB. I'll put out hashtag ranked choice voting, or hashtag right now it says People's Gauntlet. I'm promoting that. Before it had the Progressive Unity Project, so that's a lot of different things that I would like to promote. I'll put that in my name. And one time I promoted, unfortunately, somebody, and I can't remember the name of somebody passed away. A black person got shot by cops. As we always, something like that is happening. And tragic. I put hashtag the person's, just to try to bring some awareness to it. And I did happen to look at my mentions, and somebody said, hey, I came across this account and I see you're trying to ride off of this wave or this, and I'm going to report you to Twitter. So I was like, okay, let me change I didn't want to have any issues with Twitter, so I changed the tag right away. So I don't know if him flagging my account might have set this off somehow. I don't know. Another thing was maybe when I put out the promo, and I appreciate you guys. I got to give you guys some love for playing the whole promo on your show. That got a lot of attention. Like, I gained about 1,000 followers just from Crystal Ball was gracious, was great to retweet it, and a lot of other people retweeted it, and I gained about 1,000 followers. And I don't know if that attention, who knows if somebody started flagging my account for some reason.
So
Okay, yes. Go ahead.
This is one thing that I try and do, at least with YouTube behind the scenes, is really understand what makes the algorithm tick. My guess on what happened, it was around the beginning of the year, it was like February-ish, that really the channel started to be rated as controversial around that time period.
I was around January because, again, that's when I know I private messaged you about it, but I think it was like late January, so it was after January 6th.
So we know that there was a different set of agreements that were made with the Biden administration, and we also know that around the time that was happening, that's when they were taking down Trump's account and things of that nature. And we always know that whenever someone big on the right gets taken down, the left, smaller people on the left, and vice versa when that happens. And again, as I was mentioning, that technically, like under Twitter's TOS, most mainstream media content is flaggable, is sensitive. Again, it's not usually because it's behind their aegis, it's their accounts, and they get a pass to do this. So when you put up these clips, they're still not good, but you don't have the same protection as they do. So I think what I would guess has happened is very similar happened to us in February. But YouTube's, they're different platforms, so they work out a little differently in their timeline. My guess is that you just got stuck in kind of the same loop we did, that there's a changing of the guard, and they're allowing tech industry to do a lot more things. There's an era, especially on Twitter, of shut down anything controversial. And, well, I mean, again, the content that mainstream media does is like usually garbage for the most part, and I think Twitter knows that, but they just aren't allowed to say it for content on their own MSN's own channel. So I think it's that culmination. You just got caught in a net.
Yeah, I wish that we also had access to the longer minutes, because we're stuck at 220 minutes, the average member. And I looked around, and I know a lot, especially earlier when I started, people were like, "Hey, we should really try to see how you could get the longer version. If you're an official or maybe verified. Maybe if you're verified, you automatically get access to having over 2 minutes and 20 seconds." But that's something I'm just disappointed in how little transparency there is, and a very little way for you to get in contact with somebody to actually get an answer.
Oh man, we noticed.
Am I getting a disclaimer, and how can I get over 2 minutes and 20 seconds?
Because I want to point something out. When we got struck again in 2021 in March, you stood with us and you really helped us out. You gave me a chance to be a guest on your show to speak out. But what really annoys me is that the fact that somebody had the audacity to say, "Oh, well, you're trying to be a grifter. You're trying to do this." When the whole thing about a grift is it has to be a continuous freaking scam.
By the way, I gotta say,
it's so stupid.
It's so amazing the number of people that people disagree with. It's amazing. It's like very few people that people agree with tend to be grifters. It seems to be a lot of people that think. It's a lazy attack.
It's lazy because the thing is, if that person actually did their research and look at some of the other content, you have your own original YouTube channel where you host your own show with your own guests. And again, it's an awesome show. I was on it, I think, what now, 4 times now? I mean, and I had a great time. It's original content, and here you have a panel of guests speaking out their mind. You also have a channel now on Odyssey. Thank goodness for that, because Odyssey, there's a lot of potential for that platform. Yeah. So as you're growing, because I think a lot of people might want to ask you this, because you're in a good spot to where you're getting a following and a good outreach. You have your own original channel. You have this channel that you're doing. You have your own Twitter account. For anyone that's trying to getting involved in social media, what do you want to say to them as they might consider getting involved in it? What kind of heads up do you want to give to people?
Yeah, I would love to say I would be doing this forever, but I'm sure at some point I'm going to have to stop. And definitely before I do, I'm going to give away a lot of good tips and tricks that I use, software that I use to do what I do. But definitely I would say I was lucky enough to have our guy Nico House. He was the first person to retweet my account. Literally when I had like 0 followers, because I know him personally. And then I would say the next person that came across my account was David Dole. and he uses my clips often, and he's been a great or I've been a great resource to him, and he's been a resource to me by giving me shout outs. And every time he would post, I would know that somebody gave me a shout out because I would get a flurry of followers. So I think one of the things on the progressive side, we need to learn how, first, we need to learn that we grow strength from having synergy, right? So I can't, and I don't expect to do what Heartlands Media does, which you guys do great news, awesome in the format that you do it. And I'm sure Daniel said he doesn't have time to watch mainstream media all the time. So this is how we help each other out and how we can build. And the ultimate goal is to be able to have so much strength that we can help whoever is our progressive nominee in 2024 to overtake the mainstream media, because we saw what happened in 2020. We saw what happened in 2016.
Yep.
So we have to find a way that we can come together and build off of each other. Say, okay, this is your strength. This is my weaknesses. This is my weakness. Okay, how can you help me? How can I help you? So for somebody starting their own channel, definitely reach out to other people who are willing to help you. And I'm always, my DMs are open, and I figure they'll always be open. And I have certain people, Brian, I can't think of his full name right now, but he's somebody that jumps in my DMs and give me tips every so often. Just today, that I really appreciate him, because he would say, "Oh, Jamal Bowman is on right now," and something as simple as that, I might be doing something, and sometimes I can't get to it, but if I can, I'll say, oh, "Okay, thanks for the heads up," or I would clip it out later on. So that's another way that we work in synergy. I can't always watch mainstream media, but people know that, hey, if I give him this tip, he might be able to find this clip. So
and look, we're all human, so
yeah. So I want to ask this because I think that the point you're making about synergy is exactly where I am, and where I completely agree that the left has this issue where it sort of has this compulsion almost to want to fight over anything and hate each other over minor differences, whereas people in church are sort of, I would argue, probably maybe more of a target that we should be collectively focused on. And so I think I agree that completely, that synergy of the news media or the left media is very important, because we saw exactly what happened with Force the Vote when that didn't happen and how detrimental that entire situation became. So I just want to get your sense on, what do you think of where the left is at in terms of not the parts that we're trying to really build up, that synergy, but the people that are just tearing it down, fighting, attacking each other, and not, I would argue, being completely supportive of the Democratic Party by doing the very thing that they want and stopping the left from ascending in power.
Yeah, we are in some interesting times right now with all the different beefs going on. And this is the thing. I think we need to learn how to agree to disagree and keep it moving. We need to learn how to definitely give your opinion, articulate it as well as you can, try to argue the other person to come to try to convince the other person to come to your side. But if you can't, then you just keep it moving and say, okay, you're not with me on this, let's say Force the Vote, but hopefully on the next project you can be on with me and maybe we can collaborate. So for example, I got to give a lot of credit to Katie Helper, who, one of the things that she did was she brought a lot of people that were on different sides of the argument together on her channel, and certain people, they were able to talk it out, right? I think it was like Dave Sirota, you had Bree Joy Gray, and different people got together that they normally wouldn't, and it created a space that, and she was probably like the moderator, created a space that we can talk civilly and accomplish what we can accomplish. Now, I would say that as soon as you get to saying somebody's a grifter, somebody's, calling out names, now you're not stating your case. You're not trying to convince me. You're just attacking me. And that's not helpful at all. So if you want to not be helpful, then call people names. If you want to be helpful to the progressive movement, then try to come up with ideas like the people who's going, like we're probably going to discuss that soon. Come up with the Medicare for All. There's the site that's run into some issues recently, but I was so happy to see some people organizing or infrastructure organizing for marches for Medicare for. I was so excited and so energized to see that. And hopefully that, whatever happens and that gets straightened out and we could continue to organize around doing marches. But we need to not find excuses to cancel each other. We need to find excuses to build each other up and keep it moving.
And again, I think we all need to hear that, because unfortunately, Twitter, it is a cesspool, and I doubt neither one of us or anybody that's watching this has the ability or the time to really fix it. Twitter is what it is, and the Twitter beef is still happening, and I don't see in the next few months anything calming down anytime soon.
Twitter is designed to act this way.
But there is something that I do want to point out, and that is you actually have a alternative and a solution that might potentially lay down the groundwork for maybe ending the Twitter beefs. I mean, maybe ending some of the hostility. And it's called the People's Gauntlet. And I actually had the opportunity to be on your show and actually debate with someone who I actually had a disagreement with. You were the moderator, but I mean, it didn't end up as having a argument or swearing or anything else like that. There was just a disagreement on how to really motivate a progressive rally or a true progressive movement and making things happen. I was on the side of more, hey, we got to do more things on social media, do more town halls, and the other was like, no, we need to have more of an inside game and put pressure out there. But, it was just a conversation. And so I think for our viewers, why don't you explain to us, because you've actually had some private phone calls with me about the People's Gauntlet. Tell our viewers about the People's Gauntlet. Like, where'd you come up with this idea for it? And what is the potential for it in order for progressives to, dare I say it, maybe unify, come together for however short of a time until the Twitter beefs happen all over again?
So I just want to, you touched on the conversation that you had on the show. And, that's one of the things with my show. I wanted to be a discussion kind of show. And, Political Junkies is about 5 of us that we discuss. And we're all on the left, but we're on different parts of the left, right? So it might have one of my guys is more like a libertarian progressive, while somebody else is more like a liberal progressive. And, we have different arguments. And I really enjoyed that debate, and it's entertaining to see that debate. A lot of this stuff is entertaining, but the thing is, at the end of the day, when you're done, you didn't cancel that person or they didn't cancel you. So that's what I would like to see moving forward. So to the People's Gauntlet, and I want to shout out this organization, ProgressiveUnityProject.org, and I'm going to bring up right here.
Okay, let's go check it out.
This is the website underneath here. It says ProgressiveUnityProject.org, and one of the members described it as an organization dedicated to bringing together like-minded people on the left with different skill sets to get true progressives and leftists elected all across the country. And this is an organization that I saw come to fruition. I was in their DM chat, and eventually they created this organization. And the reason how I got connected to them was because I knew I was working on the People's Gauntlet. And I think that's a great example of how we work together in synergy, where they're doing their thing, helping out candidates. And eventually I'm going to be reaching out to them to say, hey, okay, the People's Gauntlet is ready to launch. I need you guys to contact candidates or let them know that this is an avenue for them to get their word out. So to the People's Gauntlet, what is the People's Gauntlet? And there you see it says thepeoplesgauntlet.com. You can sign up to get news on things that's to come. I'm very excited, and this is another exclusive that I'm going to give to Heartlands Media, that we have identified our first candidate that's going to be doing the People's Gauntlet.
Oh my goodness. Who is this person?
Yeah, the person they didn't even announce yet, but they're going to be announcing mid-July, and when they launch, we're going to be, we have 5 gauntlets, and every week the person is going to release a new gauntlet. So it's going to be, I'm so excited about this. So what is the People's Gauntlet? How did I get this idea? How did this idea came to be? And by the way, I don't want to be considered as a founder of this. Everybody who has helped bring this project to fruition is a founder. That means even you guys, Heartlands Media, you're a founder. Why? Because you're allowing me to use your platform to get the word out. If it wasn't for you, candidates who might be listening right now wouldn't know about the People's Gauntlet. So this is not me, us. This is a Unite the 99, Unite the Left project. That's how I consider it. And I think we learned our lesson from Force the Vote. So you guys see where I'm going with this. I don't want one person to be behind this, and then unfortunately, if somebody doesn't like that one person, they could take down the whole idea. So there's a video on CaseStudyQB YouTube channel called "The Hidden Case of the Justice Democrat," of the Fallen Justice Democrat, and it's about Colin Allred. And Colin Allred was a Justice Democrat. He did 2 interviews on TYT, and eventually he dropped out of Justice Democrat. I don't know who dropped out, on which side did they drop out, but the main point I'm trying to make is that he was for Medicare for all, and he said that on TYT twice. And eventually, once he got elected, once he got past the primaries, he dropped Medicare for all like a bad habit, right? So one of the things that I thought was like, man, how did Justice Democrats vet this guy? Now, I'm not saying that to dog Justice Democrats. I think Justice Democrats have their purpose in the progressive ecosystem, right? But and they were new at the time, so I'm going to I might make some mistakes with the People's Gauntlet, so forgive any crazy stuff that might happen. But the main point is I'm going to be looking to the grassroots to help build this up and to give ideas and et cetera, et cetera. So I was wondering, how did they vet this person? And then another situation happened where in Louisiana, Gary Chambers was going up. He was running for office. And in Cedric Richmond, he went into the Biden administration. So that left an open seat there. And Our Revolution, Democracy for America, endorsed another person who they said this person was for, I think, Karen Peterson. She was for Medicare for all. But we knew at the grassroots level. So, for example, Louisiana for Bernie, that Twitter account contacted me. It was like, hey, we're trying to get the word out about Gary Chambers Jr., and he's a real progressive. He endorsed Bernie twice, 2016 and 2020. Karen Peterson endorsed Hillary Clinton. And so we know right away, and imagine the irony that Our Revolution endorsed Karen Peterson. So that gave me the idea that, we need the grassroots, we need our own infrastructure and for endorsing to signal to our progressives that, hey, this is the true progressive in the race. So if everything works out in that case, we would endorse Gary Chambers and et cetera in other races. Now there's, might be situations where you get things wrong, but the point is this is the grassroots infrastructure, and the answers is going to be coming from you all. So there's going to be different phases to the People's Gauntlet, but one thing that I'm going to keep at the heart of it is that it's a people's infrastructure. So I'm going to be looking for ideas, looking for help to build this up and see where it goes from there.
I like this idea, and when you shared it with me first, I really have to say it's something that I'll be more than happy to follow and help to contribute to. Daniel.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, Kit, can I jump in one more time?
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so real quick, so the 5 gauntlets. So this is what the whole purpose of it. If you're a candidate and you're wondering, hey, how can I do the People's Gauntlet? I'm only one person. Like the first candidate that I identified, I'm helping them build it because I'm helping them with the video and the editing, because I want that to be the template of how to do future People's Gauntlet. So I'm really helping hands-on with that. But there's 435 seats in the House. I can't do everyone's gauntlet personally. So the goal is for you to have your own website, then have a YouTube channel, then you will go to the People's Gauntlet, and you're going to have 5 separate videos. And each video is going to be a gauntlet. So the first one is the Economy and Well-Being Gauntlet. You'll go through, and how you would think about it, don't think of it like you have your policy book and you're going to take it out and you're going to read 100 pages of policy on what each topic is. I want the candidates to think of it like you're walking down the street in your district, you're giving out your flyers, trying to convince people to vote for you. And what if a constituent comes up to you and say, hey, what you think about Medicare for all? Or I'll give an example here, Economy and Well-Being Gauntlet. What do you think about student loan debt? Right? So I try not to lead the witness as much as I can with the descriptions here. I want people to genuinely give what their opinion of each topic: fair trade, tax reform for the upper class and large corporations, Hispanic Social Security, et cetera, et cetera. I want you to give your actual thoughts about these topics. And it's going to do a couple things. One of the things it's going to show grassroots candidates who are grassroots people like in the audience. They're going to see your personality. They're going to see your charisma, because it's not just that we need progressives to get into office and to vote on the right issues. We need you to be able to convince moderates, maybe even Republicans. Look at Bernie work with Mike Lee on Yemen, so we need to see that, okay, I'm not only convinced that this person has the right view and is going to vote the right way, but I can see how that person's a leader. That person's going to be able to convince this other people and even maybe run a march, go and do a speech at a march, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking for the best of the best, and rest in peace, Mike Gravel, right? But one of the clips that I will always remember him on the stage, and he said, yeah, when I was surprised that I could get into Congress, and I was wondering, how did I get to Congress? But when I got to Congress and I saw everybody else, I wondered how the heck they got into Congress. I butchered that quote, right?
So,
but the point is,
go ahead.
These people they're getting into Congress without having to answer these questions. It's just somehow they're getting in there. So anyway, I'm gonna give the mic back to you guys.
I would say that I think we could say this right now as a perk that you can add to your gauntlet. Anyone that passes your gauntlet, we will interview. I think it adds in the synergy.
Beautiful.
That gives, and I think if you get enough channels that are already using your clips to do that, then you have a real incentive for people to go through the gauntlet beyond going through it. Hey, you go through and you succeed, you get interviewed on 5 different networks. Yeah. That'd be really easy to pull off. Doesn't take too much money, too much time and effort on your end. Helps everyone. It gets that synergy going. So I just want to ask, because we are reaching. We probably have 10 minutes.
So
we could extend. We have
no. We're gonna make this.
We have no hard limits. But I did want to say, because I know that we've been getting a bunch of people that are sending super chats your way. We want to make sure we read those. But I think it's only fair, since this is a podcast. Do you have questions for us that you've always wanted to know?
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish you told me that.
Roll reverse.
Well, I know. I wanted to make sure you guys unprepared for that question as possible. I don't want to lead on in any way.
There was a tweet that I saw recently, and it was talking about Substack. And I don't think you guys have a Substack, but I thought it was interesting. He's a reporter, and I believe his name is Owen. I can't think his last name, but basically he was saying about Substack that it's actually can be a detriment to reporters or to the journalist world, because in a newsroom you have the star reporters mixed in with regular reporters, I guess you would say. And the good thing about that is, because they had those star reporters, they're able to capture views, and there's going to be a lot of people who read the news or go to that source because of those star reporters. But then it's like they're getting the sugar, but then they're also going to get the medicine or the regular reporters that are they might not be that great, but their articles are as good. And what Substack is doing is pulling the superstars out and leaving those newsrooms empty, without those superstars, and they're probably going to be left to die. And I know you don't have a traditional, newsroom like, Washington Post or something like that. But I'm just curious what you think about that, because I thought it was very, most people champion Substack like, oh, we can go independent now, and et cetera, et cetera. But now, I'm just curious what you think about that.
So I think that there's a couple things at play, and there's a lot of things kind of culminating together, as there always are in history, in the present, and will be in the future. And right now, first and foremost, the traditional method of media is dying. It is straight up just dying. News, and Laney's done a bunch of reports on this. We've seen it ourselves when we've been connected with television. They don't hire people anymore. They're firing everyone. Newspapers are firing every single. It used to be that you had a reporter who would go out and collect the data, and they would be able to spend weeks or months on a single story. And then you'd have a separate person that was the photographer that would get really perfect images for those stories. And then you'd have someone else that was on, so that's all gone. It's now all basically one person, and and they're getting fired anyway. So I think, and on one level, it's the structure that built that idea up as a thing that can be used is dying. And then second is, well, we have to replace it with something else that's going to allow this to happen. So Substack is a platform to do that, but sort of like you were saying, it's really easy for just in a generic way. If you're a celebrity of any kind, people know you, and you go anywhere, there's going to be people that follow you. It's very much the same. It's a lot of platforms have this too. It's like you can't just kind of walk into, you can't walk into a place like Rockfin and just expect that you can start a career on Rockfin. You have to have one and then bring your people there and do stuff. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way things are. So if you're a journalist that is, for lack of a word, pedestrian, that sort of covers the stuff that doesn't have a set fan base, you're screwed. Exactly the way you put it. So even like what we've been talking about, like one thing we're trying to do behind the scenes and trying to grow is get to a point where we can really field a team like this.
Yeah.
But we know that we could never do that on YouTube. Are you kidding? We already know that every time that our channel starts doing well, YouTube's like, nope, you're shadow banned. And we just got to deal with that. We got to build up all this other infrastructure that we're doing behind the scenes, what we've done with our React channel. It's the reason we've had to do those things, because it's not reliable to do it any other way. So if you want to put together a team, a real team that's of like 4 people, 3 people that can take over or report on various aspects of city, well, you need $200,000 a year just lying around. And you have to, and you can't do that through news. We already see CNN tries to be Fox News. I'm saying their entire thing is maximizing profitability. You should never maximize profitability on a news. It's just a terrible idea. It forces you to act a certain way, although there is some balancing. But I think that we don't know the full answer yet to how to deal with that, and I think if we did, we've already won. So it's one of those things that we're going to win at something else when we take over. People take over government again. People have a real say. It's going to sort of be a thing that just happens.
Right.
I feel. I don't think it's something that we can directly reach at and say, let's fix the entire system by getting more journalists and people. We have to fix the system so that those journalists have a place to go.
So about your, because you brought us in on this about asking our opinion on Substack, I embrace it. I think it's something new, and we need to embrace new things, just like how we should embrace Rockfin and Odyssey, because again, with the YouTube censorship, it's very real. And look, Glenn Greenwald, Aaron Mate, they're on Substack. They use it too, because I'm pretty sure that they don't like to be censored.
But again, they're celebrities that are able to pull the audience in the first place.
I know, but the thing is, like, they're able to do that. But at the same time, too, we have to remember, to Daniel's point, I'm just going to tell everyone a story that I've said before in the show, and that is in 2018, myself and Daniel, we covered the Exoneration Project, and it was where 16 black men were exonerated from crimes that they did not commit because 4 corrupt Chicago police officers were putting false evidence and were basically falsifying their reports, and these 16 men lost years of their lives. This was breaking news, 2018. Daniel and I, we wrap up our equipment. We're ready to upload the video up onto our YouTube channel as we're getting started. 2018, we're doing a lot of field reporting. As we get into the elevator, we're joined with fellow other reporters and journalists, cameramen, crews, reporters on the ground.
All from the big 3-letter locations.
Right. And the thing is, let's face it, some of these reporters there, they're dressed better than me and Daniel. But the thing is, Daniel and I, we're thinking, like, my goodness, these 16 men lost years of their lives.
We're thinking of the story.
We're thinking about the story. In the elevator, these reporters and these cameramen are talking about how little they're getting paid, how many people are being laid off. And this is 2018. This is before COVID.
Much worse since then, obviously.
Yeah, and of course, and since then, Laney has reported as well on the Thursday show.
Half of those outfits that they were part of in that elevator, I don't think exist anymore in the city.
And the thing is, and even then, our mayor, Mayor Lightfoot, said, the news agencies need to hire more diverse people into their studios. But the thing is,
they're collapsing.
They are collapsing. And the Chicago Tribune was actually brought out by venture capitalists.
But structurally, everything is collapsing in old media.
Yeah,
everything. It just there's no one left. They've fired or they've laid off everyone. They don't have anyone. They have a guy that runs the camera. They have a guy that runs behind in the boardroom, and then they have like their anchors, and like that's all. They don't have. And NBC doesn't have a single investigative journalist on their entire network. Locally, they've basically stopped. Like, I remember when we first started covering stuff on the ground in the city, it was usually a camera person and a news reporter that would always stick to the same setup that we used. It was one person records, deals with that stuff, one person's in front of the camera. By the time we got to the end, as we were transitioning to Hard Lens Media here in a room, it was almost always just the cameraman or just a reporter that had to operate the camera themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to put ourselves in a position in 5-10 years in the future when this can bear fruit, where there's an actual infrastructure. There's maybe the government subsidizes news. Maybe that's the idea we want to go with. Maybe that something with local taxes makes it so there's always the ability for press to exist. Maybe we have other things. Maybe local businesses pool money together to have news come together. I don't know. We're trying our own thing. We're trying to build up our own infrastructure, build up a bunch of other entertainment channels, work with other people so that we have the funding to do this. But I think it's a difficult question, and in a lot of ways, I think if it was an easy question, we wouldn't have asked it in the first place.
Yeah. One other thing too, I'll never forget this. When we were covering the Illinois governor's debate, it was at UIC. I was in one spot manning one of the cameras. You were far in back.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we hear something crashing, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God! Did the platform that Daniel was standing on fall down?" I look at you, and
right, like we were literally like, "Oh, Kit's up close with like a live stream, and I'm farther back with a nicer camera getting shots that we can turn into clips." And then there's this noise.
Yeah, and I hear it, and I look at you, and you kind of give me like this look, like what was that you that I was like, no, I was looking at you, and all of a sudden, like you make a stare, and the face you make was priceless because this guy, this cameraman, nothing against him, is knocking everything down.
He's 20 minutes late to the event.
Yeah.
Doesn't even cover all of it. Just there for like 20 minutes of it. Okay, got enough B-roll, boss. I'm out of here. It's all the time it's allotted for our governor's debate.
Loud in, loud out. So the thing is, like, I'm cool with Substack doing what it's doing. I'm cool with Odyssey and Rockfin.
It's a good step. It's keeping people alive. It's keeping people centralized so they can find
and
people
maybe something better
news.
will come.
But it's for me, it's a short-term solution. If you want a really quick answer to Substack, it's not a long-term solution.
Yeah. I hope
I got
that
another
answers.
question for you all.
Okay.
Then, speaking of Rockfin and Odyssey, and there's other various platforms. Like, are you afraid that they might get the same fate as YouTube, where they get so big and they get
It is inevitable.
Yes, it's
I've seen this before.
It's a thing to do with size, and you can only do so much. Like, one thing that we're very much behind the scenes that since we've started, and we've talked about this on the show, how it's like we learned a lot from TYT, how not to grow and not to have that sort of stuff happen. But it's it's something that we have to work on, is to make sure that we never put ourselves in a position where our alignment forces us to act like YouTube. So I think, like with Odyssey, I love the way that they've decentralized everything. I think they have a really good model that is very useful for that exact purpose, because they've made it harder for themselves to exert control over their network, which I really appreciate. Rockfin is likely not ever going to have to really worry about that because of the way that they're set up. They're very much like Patreon. So they're never going to really, they're always going to be trying to serve the people that are on their platform. They're not going to really have as much influence around them as they're a co-op, and they're well designed that way. But really, because they're a $10 a month platform, they're never going to get big enough to have that sort of a worry.
Yeah.
But Odyssey is, I think, well designed more than YouTube.
And the thing is, too, for everyone that's wondering about this YouTube censorship, the reason why I'm not surprised by this is because we saw this happen on radio and on television. I remember the era of the shock jocks, and then when they got censored and when they started getting deplatformed, then went on to satellite radio. I mean, it's all the same thing. For everyone on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, surprise, surprise, this has happened before. It's just only a different platform, so I'm not surprised by this. But we have a lot of people on our live stream chat shouting out to you, Case Study, and I feel it's very important. We do acknowledge people on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rockfin. So,
by the way, there's some synergy right there that I love since we've started broadcasting. Is like, hey, we have all these different wonderful audiences from all these different platforms that
and by the way, I will say this too. This is my biased opinion, but that is a superior, awesome background of the city of Chicago. I think it's great. There's no debate. No conversation. It's great. It has earned both of our super delegate votes.
Completely fair. Look at that.
That's right. That's right.
I know if you want to go controversial next time you're on and just have a wonderful deep dish pizza on there, I know that combo couch is just going to call you and go, what the hell are you doing?
There we go. So shout out to Blanco SoCal, $5. Thanks, Case. Speaking truth to power, fighting the powerful for the powerless. That's beyond party lines. Let's go. And I'm pretty sure somebody asked in the live stream chat as well, for the People's Gauntlet, does that also include third parties, not just Democrats or Republicans?
Yeah. I remember you asked me that. So, yeah, definitely we want to include third parties. Like I was talking to my wife about, because on the front page, it talks about we're looking for progressive candidates. And I definitely want it to be known that this is a progressive infrastructure. But, you know, I would love to have a unicorn, right, where that unicorn would be a progressive Republican. Can you imagine a Republican advocating for Medicare for all?
I actually think, I've talked about this before, I think that another strategy that progressives might be able to utilize is stop running in the Democratic Party. They're too handsy. Remember, Democrats rig primaries, Republicans rig elections. So why not just run in Republican primaries? They'll rig it for you.
And I mean, Trump, he ran on giving everyone health care, and he said they said who's going to pay for it, and he said the government will pay for it, and he got elected, right? So it's that energy is out there. So we gotta just strategize, come together, put our heads together. Find out there's certain red districts. There's 6. I clipped out a clip a couple weeks ago where they're talking about 6. I think it's Senate seats that Republicans incumbents are retiring from, and they have the establishment Republican running for that office, and then they have the Trumper running for that office. So that's a place where Dems could split the vote potentially if we ran a progressive in that seat. They might split the vote and have, a lot of strife that we might be able to slip a progressive in there.
You know what we could do if we really got organized? That'd be really fun. This would just be like a dream come true, just the machinations of making it happen. Get the main progressive candidate to run in the Republican primary, win. At the same time, get another progressive to run into the Democratic primary of that side. Either win both primaries and just have them both agree to maybe joint ticket or one wins or whatever it works out to be. Or if you have one win in one, but you know the one's maybe not going to win the Democrat, just go full negative on that Democratic primary. Just tear out that Democratic candidate, and then it's. I think we could do stuff, but again, one thing I talk about on the show a lot is we just need infrastructure, because we can't just punch once and then run out of energy. We have to be able to punch an unlimited amount of times.
You got to be like Rocky. You got to knock them out, knock them dead. By the way, I also want to let you know, many people in the live stream chat are now heartbroken to find out that you're married. Sorry, everyone. CaseStudyQB. He's married.
Guys, you got to put away that fan fiction.
Guys and gals, there you go. Put it away. But also, let's go ahead and acknowledge the people on Odyssey and Rockfin as well. So first, Aspen Fallen. So excited to see the man, the myth, the legend, CaseStudyQB in the in the flesh. There we go. Whoop whoop. Volcano Party welcomes you. That's right. Yeah. Volcano Party.
That's our third party. Yes. A platform of choice.
Yeah. Volcano Solutions. So there we go. Nihilist Nick, CaseStudyQB needs the MVP award. I agree fully. Hashtag CaseStudyQB deserves the MVP award. Golic AJ says as well, I somehow suspect that the likes of Twitter and other places are on the mainstream media, and anyone calling them out with evidence from the material provided by mainstream media gets hit by their stupid algorithm. They can't have anyone go after their gravy train.
I love
100%.
There's so many ways when I see it, but I just love the beautiful irony and hypocrisy that they're showing by how they're treating your channel differently. It's just kind of poetic.
Never forget that corporate media supported the war in Iraq with no evidence whatsoever, but they keep on doing it all the time because they're corporate whores. There we go. I said it. Corporate media, just like our corporate politicians, are corporate whores. Just like Biden.
I actually spoke to the Association of Whores, and they don't want that association. I think it degrades their movement.
There we go. All right, Golic AJ.
I just want to say real quick
go ahead.
That I go out of my way, when I make the clips, and I try. Sometimes I have a time to put a quote. Sometimes I'm rushing, so I don't put a quote. I just put a quick description of what the clip is. But I, for the most part, go out of my way not to have like a complete bias. Sometimes I can't help it because, you know, I put an emoji or something there and I might put a comment, but that's rare. If you look at follow my account, it's very rare that I'll put my own opinion. So for them to say, you know, maybe I'm cursing or they put a disclaimer on my account, I'm like, you know, this is the perfect case study, no pun intended, that this is just a BS, a reason to censor a channel on Twitter.
Yeah, it's crazy how careful we have to be to do a fraction of what mainstream media says.
We're walking on eggshells, and it's so stupid. It's so stupid why we got to walk on eggshells, but it's hurts a lot of
That's why
content
we
creators.
have to be the ones dictating the platform, so that we're not walking on eggshells. We are the eggshells.
And see, here's the thing. Wait, no.
That almost came out exactly as I meant it to, but not quite.
No, we here's the thing, and again, we don't have this problem on Odyssey or Rockfin where we can actually speak our minds. Golic AJ also said social media giants like Twitter are more like an extension of corporate media. Can't argue with you there. Golic AJ says, what the hell is up with all these progressives caring more about identity politics and end up virtual
yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I have an enormous issue with the long-term strategy of identity politics. I don't think it works. In the long term especially, I think it gives short... I compare it to trench warfare because you have to have thousands of people die to make a few yards of progress, and that doesn't seem like a good strategy.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to talk to you about that real quick. So,
yes.
Go ahead.
on my show we have No Cow Zone. That's what we call it for short, but it stands for No Cancel Zone. And we encourage. I like to find a topic and find the different sides of it. Like if we all agree, I usually would not have that discussion because we all agree. But I like to find discussions. And one of the things that I brought up last week on this past show was identity politics. Like, should progressives use identity politics as a strategy? So, for example, we all love Shahid Buttar. He worked hard twice, and I believe he's about to run again. So I wanted to pose and use him as an example. Like, would we be better off running maybe a younger white woman? You know, we have Nancy Pelosi already in that seat from the progressive side, and running her instead of Shahid, who tried twice already. And, you know, of course, you're going to have different sides. We don't have to discuss it. It's up to you if we want to discuss it here. But I was just wondering, as a strategy, like, we need to stop putting purity at the number one priority. And I think we need to put strategy. Like, how do we win? You almost got to put your Mitch McConnell hat on. And, like, what would Mitch do in this situation?
So this is something, this is kind of the thing I love thinking about it. So I would say that identity politics, I try and anytime that these happened, one thing I notice a lot of people do, and I try very hard to do the opposite, is that they make it very compartmentalized. So we're identity politicking this thing on race and this. I feel for me, it has to only be a universal thing. If you have one rule, I should say, you should only have one rule. If you can't apply that rule to everything, it's not a real rule. It's a set of opinions that you're applying in a non-useful way. I look at it very much in kind of my universal take on it is, are you acting like a Puritan? And by that I mean, are you a mental extremist in that is everyone that doesn't agree with you morally inferior to you? That's sort of the test that I give for any of these. And for identity politics, it just reeks to me of that thinking is, I think a certain way about how we should be doing X, Y, or Z, and if you don't agree with me, it's not, oh, we have a difference of opinion, or let me learn more about your side, let me teach you about mine. It's, you're a terrible person that doesn't even deserve to be talked to. If you do that, you then cause people to split up. We've already seen so much of that everywhere with cancel culture and everything of that nature, but it's much more broad than all of these things. Cancel culture is small. All these things are small. They add up to this thing that just... It's like you're a tank commander and your way of fighting back is scrapping the tank to make weapons, and it's not that effective.
No.
It takes away. I've described it like, you know, if you're trying to fight for a certain group but you're using identity politics, it's like you're taking a body of someone who's suffering in that group and using it as a meat shield. You're taking and destroying the long-term reputation of groups that are actually trying to fight. And I don't see how you can enforce identity politics in the long term. I don't see how you could ever maintain it. It's a thing that has to be constant streams of troops dying and machine guns to be maintained. The second that you stop doing that, there's no lasting effect. So for me, it has no long-term effect. It causes people to fight in the short term. It's really, honestly, only really useful to the status quo because it keeps people divided. Whereas I think the better strategy is an economic-based one. All the issues that we have in America, no matter what demographic is suffering them, the root of that tree is economics. Right. You can have main branches that are in identity, but the roots, the trunk is economics. And if we can't deal with that issue, if we deal with it, literally all the identity politics issues solve themselves. If you get to a spot where everyone can hire a lawyer when they're arrested by the police and everyone can afford it, it's not a poorly paid public defender, but someone who's actually, maybe the funds are matched with the government, you're going to have a lot less people in jail for any demographic. It's just going to be more helpful to people that are being targeted. But if you don't deal with the economic issue, we don't deal with inequality, we're screwed.
I would say, like, here's the thing with identity politics. For a lot of people, their identity or how they identify as, I get that it's important, but it's not effective for voters. And we saw what happened when Jeremy Corbyn and how, again, the Labour Party was kind of heavily relying on identity politics. The real issue is the economy. And people, no matter how you identify, whatever gender group you're part of, whatever generation you're part of, whoever you worship, the color of your skin, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And the last thing any of us want to do is be evicted from our homes or our apartments. We don't want to go into medical bankruptcy. We want student debt to be forgiven. We want to end regime change wars. We got to do something about climate change. I mean, there's a massive heat wave on the West Coast. I mean, these are issues, important issues that need to be addressed, and we need effective leaders, no matter what their background is, to step up and address these problems that are going to be impacting our country. But if the progressive party, if progressives in general rely on identity politics, the vast majority of people aren't going to care, because what majority of people are going to be thinking about is, how do I keep a roof over my head? How can I make sure that my family will still be taken care of? And no, this isn't asking for the government to solve every solution, but at least knowing that there is institutions at the state level, at the federal level, that has social programs and social safety nets to make sure that the working class is going to be fine. That's great. And more people should be stepping up to run for office. But identity politics cannot be the end-all, be-all, because we've seen what happens. It leads to a rise of cancel culture, more people being confused, more people being angry. And if we're going to have that better future, we need to focus on economics and issues at hand so this country can get through these challenging times. Whether you like it or not, we're going to have to get through them, and we're going to need effective leadership. And it's going to require everyone to step up, and no one should be dictating or being a Puritan or being a gatekeeper of who can do what or who can be where. Let's also continue on with.
Before we do you want to? We said a lot. Just make sure you have a second to respond.
Let's give you a chance to respond. Then we get the rest of the people on Odyssey and Rockfin.
Yeah, I think it's all about having a progressive bench, right? So that we can then choose from that bench. You know, it would be great if we can have in every district the 3 or 4 progressives that we can then choose the best one out of those 3 or 4. You know, and I think that. I think I'm going to, so it sounds to me that you guys disagree with using identity politics. I would say if we can have that bench where we say, hey, in this district in Chicago, where, let's say, for example, and he's slipping he was a Black Panther founder of the Illinois chapter, that he's a congressman right now.
Oh, Bobby Rush.
Bobby Rush.
Yeah, Bobby Rush. Yep.
So in his district, you know, are you going to get a nerdy white guy to run against him? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I'm wondering. Like, this is where I'm keeping it real, I'm keeping it 100. This is what we in No Cow Zone. I'm bringing No Cow Zone to Harlan's Media, right? So the question is, like, if we can have that, and this is maybe where the People's Gauntlet comes in, that I'm thinking, and my vision, and I'm hoping that 2, 3, 4 cycles down the line, you're going to have multiple people putting in their gauntlet for one district. You're going to have that 4 or 5 different progressives applying to get the gauntlet's endorsement for that district, that we as a community can say, okay, which one do we think is going to do the best? And that's where I don't think identity politics should be the #1 issue, but it could be. It will be a factor, I would think.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna. I was trying to find a way to order. Ehel or Ahmad actually put
Yeah,
it perfectly worded. It's fair to make a distinction between recognizing identity and weaponizing identity. I think that perfectly.
That
sums
makes
it up.
sense. I think okay. Shout out to E. Heller.
Yeah.
Again,
That's really what we're against.
There we go.
Is when it's the priority main thing and it becomes a way of saying morally I'm superior because that just causes division. Whereas understanding the needs of a district and the identity of someone, like to your point, like with Bobby Rush, who you want to run, it's like I agree completely. But at the same time, like the Bobby Rush, so it's like Bobby Rush should do that because he's representing the community in that way. But Bobby Rush shouldn't then go, well, we're superior for whatever reason. It's distinction that's exactly well put by Heller. It's about we want people to involve it, but not weaponize it and not super prioritize it.
Now, we also got a question. Again, we got a donation from Whiteville DM. This is a question to you, Case Study, or Case. What is a few things, in your opinion, that are negative and positive aspects about Odyssey as a new platform? What are your thoughts on Odyssey as a new platform, like the pros and cons? Because right now you just got onto Odyssey. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the process. I think the user interface is a little bit more cumbersome than YouTube right now. And I had a little bit I posted 2 videos, and I went to post a third one, and they kept saying that I needed to do a deposit. Like, I wasn't sure if I needed to buy library tokens or something. I wasn't sure. But after a while, I tried again, and it let me post again. So I'm still working to understand Odyssey. But I think the more competition, the better for YouTube overall. You know, unfortunately, YouTube is the second next to Google. Google's #1 most search engine, and #2 is YouTube is the most search engine. So to get to that level of YouTube is going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think the more competition, the better.
Good. And so I would just, before we read another chat, I just want to say, like, so perfectly on that end, like, we all have issues with YouTube and Google. But at the same time, we operate on their platform because we're able to differentiate not liking everything they do and understanding that this is where a lot of people are at.
Right. Also, shout out to Ayana, who says, Kit, it's guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
I like that.
There we go.
A nice ring.
Ayana, that was great. And shout out to Ayana, who's one of our moderators as well. Garlic AJ, that's a very interesting proposal, Case Study QB. Though there were times when identity politics only seemed to favor corporate-leaning side. If there are identities mentioned about our side, they seem to be brushed aside. That being said, fighting fire with fire might be worth pushing.
And this goes back to, again, the trench warfare example I was giving, that if you're a funded corporation and an element, you can field thousands of more soldiers into the meat grinder than a small progressive group can. So you're always going to, in identity politics, the bigger army will be the one that could utilize the identity politics strongest anyway, which is another reason it's not good.
It hardly came up that Bernie, if he won, he would have been the first Jewish president. And that's one thing I got to commend to Bernie. He never put that on his sleeve. And I think that's an example of, like, pandering, you know, if he kept saying, hey, I'll be the first Jewish president, I'll be the first Jewish president, like how Hillary was saying, I'll be the first woman president. Like, I think I was sold on Bernie from his policy. So that's an example of identity politics that I didn't think it was necessary.
But, I mean, in America, I think, what is it that if you're not a Protestant, what is it that it's
white
like
Anglo-Saxon Protestant?
If you're not, it's like if you're Jewish, 50% of people just not want to support you if you make it too known. If you're Muslim, that's even lower, and if you're atheist, it's lower than that. So I would even say that he knew that it was a really bad thing to publicize, just from a voter standpoint.
Golic AJ says this, and I think this kind of relates to what you said, Case Study. Honestly, though, I would prefer the policies, and the identity is a bonus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Aspen Fallen says identity politics gets you politicians like Kamala Harris. She checks lots of the boxes, but has the exact same policies as 1970s Joe 30330. Nothing progressive about that. And I think
I totally agree. And that's where identity politics, like, that's where, as a progressive, I would complain about identity politics. Like, when the neoliberals using identity politics to say, oh, I'll be the first black woman president, or et cetera, et cetera. But that's where the People's Gauntlet comes in. Like, we want to get the substance. So you might be that cool black person running, and Bobby Rush's district. But now we need the People's Gauntlet because I want to hear how you articulate all the policies and how you're going to sell it to other people. We want to see that as well as the identity politics.
All right, this Rockfin tip is from a good friend of the show, Roger Meadows, who, mind you, Case, if you get a chance, you should reach out to Roger Meadows because he is a treasure trove of information of what's happening in New York. He got me in touch with what's happening with Campaign for New York Healthcare, as well as a lot of public services and co-ops that are happening in New York State. Again, speaker truth to power and a good source of information. Roger Meadows says this, and this is directly to you, Case Study QB. Holy duty, Case Study QB is a brother. I was expecting a young white guy with a black beard and mustache. You go ahead, bro. See you at the next family barbecue, LOL.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Anytime, buddy.
So yes, definitely you should reach out to Roger Meadows, a good source of information
he
about
knows
New York State.
Everything in New York. We'll just say that. I mean, he's gonna write us and goes, guys, I don't know about everything. He knows about everything that's ever happened in New York.
And definitely someone who knows a lot about public utilities, public information, and voting rights in New York State. Again, can't say enough good words about him. Just like you, Case. And I think as we're wrapping,
I'm gonna let LW take the final note on this.
What is that?
This is a great interview, minus the part where we find out Case Study QB is taken. LOL.
Now everyone knows that you're taken. So many hearts are broken.
Expect your viewership to drop by 20%.
No. Come on. Hey, calm down with that. Just calm. Last thing we need is, and that's when Case Studies QB's viewership went down, when he went on Harlan's Media. No, we don't want that.
And obviously, we would be happy if you clipped any of this. This was a joy.
Yes. No. You know what? I just want to say it was a real privilege to have you on our show. You have helped out numerous independent media networks. You have the courage and the mentality to sit through corporate media
and not be corrupted.
And not be holy cow, how you're pulling that off. So I think as a final note for our viewers, where can we find you online and social media, and can you also promote that page, the People's Gauntlet, and that other site that you showed, just so that way our viewers know, and just tell the name of the website addresses so that way they can go and help contribute if they can help out.
Yeah, so thepeoplesgauntlet.com. Please sign up, and there's a section that you can put your email address so that we can keep you abreast of what's going on. And progressiveunityproject.org. That's especially if you're a candidate, you definitely have to check them out. They're gonna be able to help you out and get you going. And we want to have more successful progressive candidates. So definitely, I just want to go back to what Daniel said real quick about if you do the People's Gauntlet, that you can go on Harlan's Media. That's exactly the vision that I was going for, because you guys, I'm sure, if not already, you're going to get a lot of requests to come on your show to to promote themselves, and of course you would love to, but like I said before, there's like 435 house seats. You can't do everyone, so the incentive is now you have to go do the gauntlet, then they'll be able to watch and make sure you're a legit person, and then you're highly and more likely to get on the show. And then the last thing, I want to just promote my Political Junkie show on Case Study QB every Monday at 8 p.m. Kit is officially a PJ. I'm here to annoy him. He's officially a PJ. We got to get Daniel on at some point. And he's been on there enough, and we feel so at home. You know, my guys, Izzy, Gabe, Felipe, he's there every so often. Carlos, Bidon, and all my peoples. And I just want to give a little tease. Next Monday, one of the no-cow zone discussions is going to be, should we reform, abolish, or what's the other word? Reform, abolish, or get rid of, well, that's abolish, the CIA. And does America need an intelligence agency? So we're going to see. Maybe I get canceled. Maybe someone else gets canceled. But we're going to have different opinion on whether we should reform it or totally get rid of it. You know, so we'll see what happens.
I like the show.
I know I have a very controversial take on that.
Yeah.
Hey,
look.
I might need to get you. Maybe we could talk and I could get you on the show.
So I'd love to. That would be something. Yeah, I want to see if. I mean, honestly, I want to see if my idea is any good. I want to have other people try and take it down or see if it'll stand its ground.
All right, let's see it. Let's see if we can make it happen. And look, I
think-
have my opinion, but let's go.
I think FaZe has something for us on Rockfin.
Rockfin as well. Roger Meadows tipped $2 on Rockfin. I agree that economics of the working class are the ties that bind us, but in our pursuit to achieve equality, we should also make sure black communities are doing just as good as white communities. Both might be below water now, but we are not evenly below water. We don't want both to get above water, but racial income and wealth inequality still exists despite both communities doing better. Agree completely, Roger Meadows. I think was wrapping things up. First, Case Study QB. You have the privilege of being the first guest in a long time being live on air with us. We also got a tip from Ayana on Odyssey. Can we get Case Study QB's show link? More than happy. You know what? Here's what I'll do on the Twitter account. I'll be more than happy to post his YouTube page and his Twitter page. Yeah, and we'll do that for all of our viewers. So if you follow Hard Lens Media on Twitter, I will personally make those tweets right now, tweet them out there, and give a big thank you to CaseStudyQB for being on our show. Shout out to FaZe, our tech priest for manning the board. Shout out to Daniel Upker for being my awesome co-host who knows no bounds. No holds bars. And again, shout out to Case Study QB, speaking truth to power. Be sure to follow him on Twitter, YouTube, and on his Odyssey channel as well. My name is Kit Cabell, the host of Hard Lens Media. Tonight at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Chicago Corner will be live. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.